I'm going to tell you about Project Wingspan Illinois and how and why we do what we do. And we're doing great. I'm Eleanor Schumacher, and I'm the Illinois State Coordinator for Project Wingspan. And Project Wingspan is run by Pollinator Partnership. Um, I also work as an apiary inspector with the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and I have since 2010. I'm also a monthly columnist right now for the American Bee Journal's Basics of Beekeeping column. Got 3 more months to go to get through that commitment. I have a master's degree in natural resources and environmental sciences I got from University of Illinois. I'm a master naturalist. I'm going to talk briefly about the state of pollinators. It's always good to revisit those metrics and talk about the benefits of pollinator habitat a little bit and talk about how you can get involved you already know, but these are the things that we want to keep, continue to raise awareness in the public. And then I'll talk about Project Wingspan. So I like to revisit these statistics. The more you revisit them, the easier they just roll off your tongue. The actual metrics on what's happening with pollinators, how are they in trouble, and why does it matter to the human race? So our pollinator paradox, $20 billion worth of US products are pollinated by bees, butterflies, ants, and beetles and flies. But our farm and ranch lands that support pollinators are disappearing at the rate of 3,000 acres per day. That sounds preposterous. How could they be disappearing at that scale? Wouldn't they all be gone so quickly? And how? How do we even have the human resources to destroy that much pollinator habitat every day? But if you think about the way that farmland, ranch land is always changing, coming and going, young people buy new farms, or other people who have had natural lands, they need to make more money in this economy. So they end up having to farm lands that they were letting set aside or had enrolled in a program, a USDA program like CRP. And of course, we are having, there's a shift of landowners also enrolling land in CRP and, of course, re-upping their native wildlife habitat. But still, there is a destruction of pollinator habitat. Another sad thing I like to talk about, because I am a beekeeper and I also work with beekeepers, is there are a lot of people, I would say all over the country, because I see it in Illinois. A lot of people go and they'll move to the country, they'll buy some land, they see a lot of grass, they see some clover and maybe a little bit of black-eyed Susan. And maybe they don't notice other flowers that are growing there. And rather than maybe burn it with a fire, see what might naturally still exist on that land, they'll think, you know what, I'm going to plant some habitat for my bees. And they'll burn it down with herbicides, and they'll plant it with clover and things, and they think they're doing something great when in fact they may be killing a remnant prairie. And I hate to talk about this, but I know this from experience, and I recognize it when I'm out in the field because I did it myself. It's tragic to me when I think about when I thought I was doing something good for the environment. I burned, oh gosh, I don't know, a good acre down with herbicides to replant into pollinator habitat. And I realized later that I just burned down a bunch of native wildflowers and spring ephemerals that I had no idea were there. So that was a tragedy, and that's something that's actually happening. So that's why raising awareness is really important. So here's more statistics. These are from Xerces Society. There's a 28% bumblebee decline. There's a 19% risk of an extinction of some butterfly species. 50% of leafcutter bee species are at risk. 27% of mason bee species are at risk. And then we have all of these non-native lady beetles that are competing with our beneficial insects. So working statistics, this is what we throw out there when we talk about pollinator habitat. The USDA came out and said in 2022, 75% of global food crops depend on pollinators, 75% around the world. And 1 out of 3 bites of food we eat are because a pollinator visited a flower. We can say that with confidence. USDA said that in 2022. And an interesting study, the US Forest Service was looking at individual bee populations. And in their 15-year study, they saw a 60% drop in individual bee populations. So looking at some more of that meme, this is very popular. I'm sure you've seen this several times. Whole Foods got together with Cersei Society and did this. This is your produce section with bees, and this is your produce section without bees. That's quite a reduction in choice there. And then a look again at what we're talking about, the statistics that we use and hope are imprinted in our minds. That 75% of global food crops, that's been used and established for a long time. That Klein et al. Study is really the one that first started talking about that and proving that pollinators really are the reason why we're able to eat the way we do. And that 1 out of 3 bites, that's also a very old study that we've been talking about for such a long time. 1976 is how long we've known that. And the declines in production are associated with pollinator decline. Again, that's been around for such a long time. And so we really need to get those statistics into people's minds so that they really understand the importance of pollinators. So let me tell you about Project Wingspan. This is something that's been going on since 2016 in the Monarch Flyway. We started out with 8 states. We recently reduced just to Illinois and Indiana to kind of rework the model of the program. But I'm really excited about it because I've watched it grow and snowball, and so many volunteers and volunteer teams all over Illinois are getting involved and bringing in a ton of seed. Not a ton. I shouldn't throw that word. We're not close to a ton of seeds, but we do have a lot of seeds that come in every year and more every year. So what's happening at Project Wingspan? Hold on, let me check the chat window because I see somebody said, what is CRP? Oh, thanks, Kathy. CRP, yes. So CRP is the Conservation Reserve Program run by USDA through the Farm Service Agency, and also NRCS helps get these acres returned from farmland to native wildlife habitat. So basically, targeted around the country are acres that aren't as productive for farmland, aren't producing the crops, and maybe are highly erodible grounds. Farm edges, anything, near a creek, places where it really matters. There's a brand new CRP program called prairie strips. And so they identify sort of vulnerable areas of a farm field and, like maybe where water concentrates, and they create like a 30-foot buffer over there. And rather than doing something like they used to do exclusively grass waterways, some of these high water concentration areas could be turned into prairies. And so they did a lot of research at the University of Iowa. And in 2017, they came out with a published study that had such exciting information. It wasn't hurting pollinators to have 30-foot buffers in farms. It was actually boosting populations. And so USDA adopted that. And now you have a lot of farm ground implementing these prairie strips. It's very cool. You see them popping up in a lot of places. So that's CRP, the Conservation Reserve Program.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking that question.
Sure.
Project Wingspan, what we're doing, we're increasing the quantity, the quality, and the connectivity of imperiled pollinator habitat areas across the Midwestern and Great Lakes landscape. We have 3 steps to our program. We collect seed. We do that by forming leadership teams, and we train volunteers and certify them. And we create and promote a network of seed collectors and collection event hosts. And we're focused on collecting regionally appropriate seed. And then we clean and we grow out the seed. We inspect the seed for the integrity of the collection, and we divert a portion to grow out into plugs. And then we spread the seeds throughout the land by getting landowners to sign letters of commitment to keep pollinator habitat for a minimum of 5 years. And if they'll agree to do that, and if they share with us their habitat management plan and it looks like they're taking good care, then we can give them a seed award or a plug award. And we give a lot of awards because we have so many people all over Illinois volunteering and collecting. It's really, really awesome what's happened in Illinois. So when I talk about regionally appropriate seed, this is what we're doing pretty much in every state. We're dividing it up into 3. And in Illinois, you can see our 3 regions. We may change this up a little bit. I think we may be turning Cook and DuPage and possibly Will County into the green zone, but we'll see what happens with that. I mean, it would be really fun to divide things up even further, because when you get down into like the super south counties like Massac County, which is where Cairo is, that's a completely different it's a completely different bioregion. It feels like you're in Mississippi when you're down there. It's so different. All right. So our goals for Project Wingspan, our first goal is to expand and grow out our regional seed collecting program. So we create a coordinated regional seed collection and distribution network. That's my favorite part of this job, is talking to different people from all over the state, connecting dots, who knows who, which program is working with which program. I think that the more we can get all of the native plant programs dialoguing, working together and participating on events, the stronger the state will be able to bounce our prairie acreage back. Because as you know, what are we, the prairie state? Aren't we called the prairie state? Or we were at one point. I mean, what did we have? 2 million acres? Oh, I'm so bad with numbers. If you know the metrics on this, but I think it was 2 million acres of prairie. Or was it 200? I think maybe I need to look at that. I need a slide on that. I think it was 200 million acres in Illinois were prairie. And now it's something like 2,500 acres of prairie in the state. So bouncing that back by uniting all the involved organizations and projects. So that's one goal. And then cooperating with existing collection programs to support their capacity, and providing much needed regionally adapted native seeds to pollinator habitat projects. And again, so that's our hugest priority, is by regionally appropriate seed. Okay, so our second goal, we're providing technical assistance and training for seed collection and habitat enhancement. So we have land steward workshops, usually once a year. We'll do in-person workshops, and we do online webinars as well, covering the best management practices we currently recognize, habitat creation and restoration and enhancement. We talk about long-term management techniques, and we do on-site workshops, and we tour exemplary native pollinator habitat areas. Last year, we did 6 different workshops around the state in person, working with NRCS, and we'll always show up to anyone's pollinator habitat field day and participate if we are available. So our third goal, we have grant deliverables. So our grants usually last 2 years, and our grants come from the NIFWF, National Federation and Wildlife Fund. We're very fortunate to continue to get grants from them cycle after cycle. So what are the deliverables for the cycle we're in now? We have to enhance and secure 2,000 acres of long-term habitat, collect 25 pounds of milkweed seed, collect 20 pounds of other target species seed, grow 5,000 milkweed seedlings, and 5,000 other target species seedlings. Looking at this list, I realize there's a slide that I need to create, and that is the metrics that have just come out for what we've already collected last year. So last year was the first year in this cycle, and we're way, way, way over our deliverables. We collect in Illinois, we collected 135 pounds of native wildflower seeds just last year. So everybody that participated, Susan, you were, and I think you went out there. I'm trying to remember which event you may have gone out on. We had so much participation this year. So yeah, 135 pounds came in for Illinois. And half of that, I think, was milkweed. So we're way over target, and that's great. We need to set our standards higher. And yep, we're going to distribute all those seeds and seedlings to local projects. And by the way, if you know of any locations, right now we're looking for some large locations that want to enhance small acres, but will sign to agree to manage large acres. So here's an example in, this isn't near Route 66, it's near 57 over there. In Mattoon, they have a wonderful nature preserve, the Douglas Hart Nature Preserve. It's really nice big prairie. And if they want to add on or enhance a few acres, we can get them to sign our letter of commitment saying, you know, we have 100 acres that we're managing. So that's one of our grant deliverables we're looking to meet right now. So if you know of a location that's a larger size prairie that is looking to enhance a smaller area, that's our target for distributing our seed awards right now. So let me know. All right, and then the last grant cycle, what were the deliverables? We can't talk about that without talking about the volunteers. So here's how we manage our volunteers. We train everybody with in-person workshops and online training. I do an online live training about 6 times a year, and I have one coming up in March. We talk about how to identify native plants, how to scout for a population of native wildflowers, seed collection best management practices, seed viability testing in the field, and the data collection protocol, because it's very, very important to keep track of where the seeds were harvested and what exactly was harvested and get the pictures in the right database. We have a wonderful, very easy to use, very fun little cell phone app that helps you do that in the field. It takes 2 minutes to do your first species and then 30 seconds for every additional species. Anyone can use it. It's so fun and easy. Oh, and how to label dry and ship seeds. That's also important training. Okay, so yes, what did we accomplish with the last grant? We collected 170 pounds of seeds in a 2-year period, 60 pounds of milkweed seeds, 110 of the other species. 31 different species were collected, 4 different milkweed species were collected, and the seedling plugs created and the awards given, the plugs were, we created 3,728. And our award recipients for plant materials and seeds, 78 people projects got awarded plant materials. So that's exciting. And this is the list of our target species. We're actually going to be changing this because we're changing our seed processing partner. It looks like we're going to be working with Prairie Moon and another organization that's going to grow out our plugs. And so because that's going to cost more money, we're going to have to limit some of these species. If you're looking at this list and you see a species that you love and don't want it to go away, let me know. Take a moment, look at this list. I'll let you know that lupin, I'm arguing to get rid of lupin. No one ever collects it, but buttonbush is already off the list. Let's see. Common evening primrose, that's an interesting one. People collect it a lot, but I feel like it grows on the side of the roads all over the place. I'd rather people focus on other species. It's also very bulky in the bag, so I'm opting to maybe get rid of that one. Oxeye sunflower is really, I find it very hard to identify in the field. Jewelweed is already gone. I'm thinking of crossing off black-eyed Susan because it's a funny plant. It grows where it wants to grow and when it wants to grow. It gets outcompeted easily, and I don't see that many pollinators on it. Let me know what you think about that. I'd really like to know your opinion. So I'm arguing to cross that one off. Who else? A dense blazing star I'm wanting to cross off for prairie blazing star, Liatris pycnostachya. I hate to get rid of it, but tall coreopsis and common bone set. Um, let's see. I think that's, oh, smooth blue aster. We can never find it. The only place I ever see smooth blue aster in a prairie is out in Virginia at the Rexroth Prairie. And there's not a whole ton of it, but there's a good stand of it. So yeah, those are some we're going to be crossing off. Let me know what you think about that. Anyone have any opinions about that? Love some feedback.
I kind
Well,
of agree on the Rebecca that a lot of times you don't see many pollinators on it.
Yeah.
Maybe some flies and things, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
flies. You see pollinating flies on it, but
Yes.
you know what? Pollinating flies, they'll work a lot of different stuff. I feel like
Yeah,
there
but
aren't a
like you
lot of
never really
fly
see,
specialists.
butterfly or
Bees, you don't see
bees on
bees.
it. What
Yeah.
about oh, I can't think of the name.
Gray-headed coneflower.
Wild senna?
What wild senna got added, so you don't see it here, but that did get added.
That
And
is like a bumblebee crazed.
yep, we're keeping that because you do
Yeah.
see that. I just found an enormous population of that down at Henry Eiler's Route 66 Prairie. And if I
Okay.
hadn't found that enormous population of it there, I might have said we should cross this off. I only know of one
It's
other place.
pretty easy to collect seed now. Our club collects all kinds of native seed and mostly common milkweed.
One more question to you about plants. I was thinking of crossing gray-headed or yellow coneflower Retivita pinnata off the list. I love to
yes,
see it. It's one of my favorites, but I just don't see pollinators on it that much.
I agree. I agree.
It's so fun to collect. It smells good. It looks beautiful with or without petals.
Right.
But it's iconic. But this is for
Right.
nectar and pollen, and
Right. And the way to learn all that is just to be standing in the middle of all that.
yeah. So we may cross
When
that one off.
like you are, Eleanor, I'm sure you're out there watching it
lot, a
and you
lot.
notice those things, but I kind of agree on that one too. So it's interesting.
That was part one. Here comes part two. This is more like a picture, show and tell, and a little bit of anecdotal story, and getting into my winter project, the homegrown native plant webinar series, something I kind of came up with out of the blue because here I live kind of in the St. Louis area. I'm like 45 minutes from St. Louis in Pocahontas, Illinois. I'm in Chicago all the time, though. I come every other week. That's where I'm from. And I come to Springfield all the time too. So anyways, I travel a lot. But in the St. Louis area, we have this fantastic new initiative that was started by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's the Great Rivers Pollinator Habitat Partnership. And it's every pollinator habitat agency or interested agency and organization in the St. Louis area and surrounding counties that you could think of. Everyone's coming together. They got this fantastic grant. They built a greenhouse, and with that greenhouse, they're going to grow native plants to give away to citizens of St. Louis and the whole St. Louis area, Missouri and Illinois. So this is of interest because we have connections in Hamel. I think you're working with the city of Hamel. Is that right? For Route 66 or Edwardsville for sure, but Madison County.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is great. And I think, you coming into that partnership would be a good idea too. So they're
Okay.
always trying to expand that partnership, but because they have this new greenhouse, I thought I had an opportunity because I like to do live webinars and stuff to sort of help all of the local people come together under this idea I have, growing your plants at home. It's really easy. So growing native plants at home. This was inspired by Pollinator Week. Every year in June, the third week of June is Pollinator Week. That's a pollinator partnership program. And so yes, the homegrown native wildflower webinar series. We have had 2 episodes so far. And it all started because one of my Project Wingspan volunteers came to my house and we were going to carpool to Horn Prairie, just north of Vandalia, an amazing remnant prairie. And she saw my planters on my porch, and she was just furious with me and berating me about my planters. What, this is your garden? Petunias into planters? And she wasn't sure she wanted to work with me, seeing that. And I said, look, I don't have time. I work a lot. I'm always working. I don't have time to plant a pollinator garden. Petunias is it. And she said, you're spending more time watering those pathetic petunias than you could be letting nature do it for you and helping the pollinators like you're supposed to be. And I said, you know what? You got to stop, because I told you I don't have time. She said, well, you're going to do this, and I'm going to grow plants. I'm going to give you plants, and I'm going to help you plant it. I said, well, okay. So I went out, because I couldn't get her voice out of my head. And I got some herbicide, and I killed all the grass all around my porch, 5 feet in front of my porch. I just killed all the grass. And I didn't ask my husband. I just did it. He didn't bat an eye. So then that winter, I saved a seed head or two from all the species that we collected for Project Wingspan. And I cold stratified them last year in January into these flats. I kept them moist all winter long. It was very easy. And then in March, it warms up here pretty well. And I was able to just put all the plants under a sprinkler set on a timer. And I've got some chicken wire over here to keep the cats and squirrels out of it. And that worked really well. And every day at 6 o'clock in March, and then for the entire growing season, 6 o'clock in the morning, my sprinkler came on and watered my plants for me. And I didn't have to think about it or really do anything until the seedlings were so big. Then I had to enlist some help dividing them. There were thousands and thousands of plants there. And then lo and behold, Pollinator Week, my friend who was telling me I was such a bad person came back, and she brought me all these plants and came to help me plant this pollinator garden. And this is what it looked like. I did buy some plants too, because you get into Pollinator Week and you get a lot of places trying to move plants. So you can buy $4 plants ready to go. So that was really fun. That's what it looked like in June. Here's what it looked like. I would say this was probably August. It did really well. It was a joy to have all summer. This must have been October. Just fantastic and fun and beautiful all year. I put hot wire around it to keep there's one of my dogs, just to keep the animals out of it. That was necessary. They like to dig. And I was left with a ton of plants, leftover plants. I had to give them away. Wow. So here's the Massac County Soil and Water Conservation District getting probably, I don't know, 300 plants when it really comes down to it. And she decided very late in the game to schedule a pollinator habitat field day right there at the Soil and Water Conservation District. She decided she would start a prairie right there at the end of the summer. I said, whoa, you got to be careful. You can't just throw seeds out there. You got to kill your grass, make sure it's dead. You got to put some plants in there. Let me just give you some of these leftover plants. And so she did. She killed that grass, and she killed all the weeds, and she put in these plants. And there they are at the Pollinator Habitat Field Day, doing fantastic. She did 2 different gardens. This was one that was more of a display garden, where she also used non-native species that are pollinator attractors, cosmos, lots of cosmos in there, just to make it beautiful and sort of as nurse crops. And still I'm left with a ton of plants. And there in the background, you can see a black patch. That's one of my prairies where I planted a bunch of these plants. So yes, and I also broadcast a whole bunch of seed every year. Every other year I may broadcast seeds. That's important, but not as important as managing for the invasive species. So, but as far as broadcasting seeds, so we can see if it was that easy to grow plants from seed, anyone could do it. And that's easier actually than broadcasting seeds. I would say that's how I got my prairies started. They're not very biodiverse. It's been a struggle managing my prairies. But here's some pictures. from 2016 when I first started seeding, dividing, mixing all of the seeds in a clay kitty litter, and then dividing it up into as many 5-gallon buckets as I had. There I am in my husband's milk parlor. We're dairy farmers. I'm fortunate that I don't ever have to touch a cow. Yeah. I went out, I stayed up all night, and my dogs came with me. I pulled an all-nighter broadcasting seeds to get this done. I was trying to get ahead of a rainstorm and get it done before the fields were going to be completely saturated and unmanageable for weeks to come. So this was mid-April. Staying up all night with a flashlight taped to a hat on my head. Flagging's really important when you're broadcasting this way. You kind of have to grid out your potential prairie and space your buckets evenly among the flags. So flags help a lot. And here I am at 9 a.m. still going. And that's about what it looked like. My dogs were very good helpers. 5 acres hand broadcast, that about killed me.
Yes.
That's the way to do it. That's one way to do it. There's a lot of wildlife habitat around where we are.
What were you burning off in that previous slide? Just grass?
That's this right here. No, actually, every year, this is one of my restorations, and it's not very biodiverse, so I'm always working on it and trying to get the tall goldenrod down. My way of dealing with that is, my favorite way of dealing with tall goldenrod is going out in, I want to say late March is probably the good time, or maybe it's April. I can't remember what day. But I'll go out with a backpack sprayer full of herbicide, glyphosate. And at a certain point, you've got these crowns that are about, 1.5 or 2 inches tall. You can really identify them as tall goldenrod. You know exactly what they are. And so if you have a nice targeted backpack sprayer, you can just hit those patches where you see those tall goldenrod crowns coming out, herbicide them right when they're, just 1.5 or 2 inches tall. It really helps. It really helps knock that back. That's how I deal with tall goldenrod. There may be better ways. So yes, that was fun, taking some of my plants and putting them in the prairie. You know, there's only so much you can do before your body starts to give out. So it's always a very long process. And this is just a picture of Horn Prairie with Keith Horn and Henry Eilers. I wish I could remember the name of this young botanist, and my friend Larry Brammer, local naturalist. That may be all yep, that is all. That is all I have. Those are all my pictures. So thanks very much.